Hi everyone, and welcome to Behind the World. I'm Ahmed, and on this show, we talk to the people who build the worlds that we play in, watch, and sometimes even live in. Today, I'm welcoming my friend here, Nuno Leiria. Nuno has worked on worlds that millions, if not hundreds of millions of people played, which, for example, Fortnite. And today, he's working on a company to give that power to everyone. Before we dive in, Nuno, I want to hear it from you. What's your story?
Easy questions, eh?
Yeah.
I guess you can start with, how I grew up. I grew up in Portugal, in Lisbon, and my story, as it relates to game development, starts when I was 12 years old. I was playing this game you might have heard of, Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I did.
And to me, that game was, as I was playing it, I had this moment of ignition. Where I was like, oh, wow, what I'm feeling right now is what I would like other people to feel as well. Right? And from that moment on, I was like, okay, I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I taught myself programming and games programming. I did computer science and then engineering in Lisbon. But there's no games in Portugal.
No, sadly, I wish there were more.
So even back then, I went to the UK, did a master's in games programming. Back then, learning how to code for the PlayStation 3, which enabled me to fulfill my dream and become a game developer. So after that, I worked on games like Rethink and ALX and Fable Legends and Fortnite, always working on the game engine and creator tool side of things, like graphics, physics, AI networking, console optimization, all of that. And that led me to now creating Nilo to try and actually fulfill that mission of giving that sentiment to a lot of people.
You know, I'm genuinely inspired by your journey because I think a lot of people grow up wanting to become game developers, myself included, and my friends know that. And sometimes people just like end up drifting and doing other things. I think I told you this when I met you that I admire the fact that you just went after it and you just pursued one thing and you let your passion just drive every single decision you make without like letting other things come in your way. So and I'm sure like a lot of people would be inspired by your journey.
No, I really appreciate that. Yeah. I remember when I was younger and, even my mom would tell me, are you sure you want to do this? Because, I really like languages, but, I wasn't that good at maths, probably even not good yet. And she was like, are you sure about this? But as I was going on the journey, I was telling myself, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small village in Portugal. Well, who knows about, startups or games or technology or anything? And I was telling myself, there is no plan B. Yeah. And it was going to happen.
You don't have a choice.
And then I have a choice.
Yeah. And they think that games is just for fun. It's not really a career. Like in most places in the world, right? Especially parents. I remember having this conversation with my parents. Games is just for fun, but actually, no, there's an entire industry behind it and so much work and passion behind it.
But actually, that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen throughout the years is actually in the beginning, if you remember, it was like games cause violence. Games are just for male teenagers that have pimples, Like it was something that was not even almost a career path and it was seen as a derogatory thing, something that is not good for you. And now, look at what we have, 3.3 billion players, that generation that has grown up, now that they've played and they don't play anymore, their kids can play. And, what happened is that people can't discriminate against themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're a gamer and you were a gamer, now your kid can be a gamer. And now everyone can play from hardcore games to mid-core games to casual games. And the industry just grew to become the biggest media industry in the world.
Way more than I think movies and shows and combined even.
And books and music and everything. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I have a lot of questions about that, as you may know. So, guess my first thing is, you've seen the gaming industry from the inside for how much now? For over a decade, roughly.
Yeah, 15, 16.
15 years. What's the biggest thing that players don't see about how games are actually made?
I think players don't usually see how much blood, sweat, and tears actually goes into making a game. And especially as, gamers really care about the games that they play and they're very vocal. But sometimes I feel like there would be a little bit more compassion if they actually see the other side, if they saw how much people care, how much, they work and actually put their heart and soul into creating these games. Hundreds of people, sometimes over many, many years. And like, if you've seen how much work it actually is to put these things together, you would go like a little bit of more compassion and empathy in the words that the fans sometimes put behind is a little bit harsh, in my opinion. And I think it's because they don't see the care and effort that goes in making games.
Yeah, you're talking about this. Last time I was playing, which what I think is the greatest game in the world, like The Last of Us, and I was looking around left and right, and you see like a destroyed car somewhere really well made, and you just pass by it, right? But at some point, I remember like I was playing, I watched it, I stopped, and I was like, wow, someone sat down, designed this car, put it there. There are even scratches on the car. If you play on PS5, like you can see it, there's scratches on the car. And like, wow, someone took the time to draw that, even though 99.999% of the people will never see it. And I think they discussed that in one of their documentaries about the love of doing that. And it's okay if people don't see it. It's just about making the best world possible.
Yeah. And it's about the love of the craft as well. Sometimes people put that kind of care and craft into the worlds because they really love, creating the lore, creating the worlds, because they enjoy their craft and they want to do the best that they can do. But what you're speaking about also calls to a tweet, I think, from John Collison, where he said, the world is a museum of passion projects.
Oh,
it's like,
that's beautiful.
Someone created this. Someone created this. Someone created this quest. Someone created this house. Like, someone had the vision and the dedication to pull together a bunch of people to create all of these things, and we truly stand on the shoulders of giants. So even that is a small example of that.
I like it. I didn't know this quote. Yeah. I actually had no idea. So you've worked on games that millions, I don't know, how many people play Fortnite now?
Are we in the dozens of millions concurrent?
Dozens of millions concurrent, but like hundreds of millions of people at least tried it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you've worked on these games that millions of people played. Did it ever hit you emotionally that people were spending real parts of their lives inside something you helped create?
Yeah, of course, when you work on some of these big projects, it's not like one person has, the biggest impact on things happening. So you feel like you're a small part, I try to also be humble about this, a small part in enabling something as big as that. Even as a founder and CEO, it's not like I'm doing all of the work, so it's through the team that the work actually gets carried. But it's a good question, and I sense that if you go outside and you speak with kids and parents, and they go like, "Yeah, so where are you working? What do you do?" Well, I work on Fortnite, and the kid goes like, "You work on Fortnite?" And then the next week, "Hey, do you have cheats?" I'm like, "No, man, you play better than I do." So you see that impact, day after day. It's something very heartwarming and wholesome, and it gives you like that, oh, I just want to continue doing this so I can, so people actually have a little bit more brightness in their eyes, and so you do feel the impact. But actually, that's at a larger scale. I first felt this when I was at Piranha Bytes.
Okay.
Because it's a small company, it's maybe like 35 people.
Yeah.
But they made games where, millions of people would play it all over Europe, like Gothic, Risen, Alex. And what would happen is that people would send over like gifts, and like it's sometimes food and letters. And those gifts would stay in the hall where people would just come in to get to work, and they would see it. And then, I would see those letters. Sometimes they were in German. Like, I didn't even know German. So I just start reading the letters and ask for people to translate. And it's like fans that really appreciate the work. And like, thank you so much. And this changed my life because of this that happened with my cousin. Those heartwarming stories. And yeah, so that was my first impact of, oh, this actually touches people's lives. And then, then with Fortnite, it's just a massive.
Do you have a memorable one? Like a memorable either message you received, a kid tells you something about one of the games you've made that stayed in your mind?
I think the closest one that appear in my mind now are actually about Nilo itself.
Okay.
Because what happens is that every time someone subscribes to the mailing list, I think we have more than 2,000 people now. Someone... once they join, they receive an email that goes from, my email address and says, "Hey, thank you for joining."
Okay.
And what drew you to Nilo in the first place, And they reply, all replies go to my inbox.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Was that on purpose?
It was on purpose.
It
And
was on purpose.
every single reply.
That
And
makes
I
sense.
reply to many, many of them. And so I can see, why people would like to use Nilo. And that sometimes stays in my mind. Sometimes people write like big testimonials, and it's really heartwarming to see, for what they want to use. Sometimes they're like, oh, I always wanted to create games, but I don't know how to code. I don't know how to model.
Yeah.
And it's always bothering me. I wanted to create games with my brother and I could never, but now I feel like I can. Now that you have Nilo, so I really want to. So those stay in my mind.
How much do you think? So maybe we should give a bit of context about what Nilo does before, like, can you explain it in a very, which I'm sure you do all the time, to like, because you have to explain it to investors, you have to explain it to normal people that you talk to your parents. So how
My
would you
mom still has no idea what I do.
I read this quote once that if your mom understands what you're working on, then you should be changing your job. I was like, there's some part of it that's true,
I'm still good enough.
And then one guy told me, yeah, but my mom is a software engineer at Meta. I'm like, okay, she will understand. But anyway, can you maybe describe, because I love what you're working on, and I think, I have my views on why I think that's gonna become a big thing, but I'd love for you to like explain it to the people what you're working on.
Yeah, of course, a pleasure. Yeah, so Nilo is a platform that allows anyone, especially young users, to be able to create games, but using like their voice and prompts and text. So it's a much easier and collaborative way in the browser of people to come together and create a game, but where they feel like they're inside of the game while they're doing it. And so it doesn't feel like the traditional tool that feels like Photoshop, like Unreal Engine, or you
Okay.
actually feels like you're in a game with your friends. So you're having fun and you're basically saying, hey, I want Spider-Man. Then someone sees that, they go like, then I want Hello Kitty. And now it's like, oh, I want a plane. Now I want a plane to fly. And what happens is that generative AI is creating the 3D models, the animations, the code. And so these things that used to take teams of professionals days to create now take a few seconds.
Yeah.
And so now you can create a game while where people feel like they're building the game inside of it. And so then in that platform in Nilo, you're able to just construct a game with your friends that then you publish and other people can just play, and then they can remix and clone, and it's just you can create whatever comes to your mind.
Wow, I think the last time I saw the product, it didn't have all of this. So this is also a surprise for me. There's the remix and stuff. I had no idea.
There is so much more.
Okay, yeah, I have to check it. I have to check it out. And is it mainly used by kids nowadays, or like, what's the demographic of people using it?
Teenagers.
Teenagers.
We call them aspiring builders.
Okay.
Yeah, so it cannot be professional developers because AI does not have that kind of quality. Also, professional developers are used to their tools, their workflows, Unreal Engine, Unity, all of that.
Yeah.
And so, they look at something like Nilo and go like, yeah, this looks like a toy, which is a feature.
Right.
Everything big starts looking like a toy.
Was it done on purpose that it looked like a toy?
No. That's just the quality that generative AI has now. That's just what it is. New technology starts with a lower bar, in terms of, some quality or acceptance by the market, but then it improves so quickly that it takes over. And this is like the low-end disruption theory by Clayton Christensen. It's usually is a feature. It's not done on purpose. It's just so the technology is so new that people, incumbents, look at it and go like, this is a toy. And then it grows so quickly that like, oh, now there's nothing to do. They took our market.
Makes sense. And why do you think was it so important to you that creation feels like a game, feels accessible rather than feeling, because before it was intimidating. I remember opening Unreal Engine in 2016. I'm sorry, I know you worked on Unreal Engine, but opening Unreal Engine and I was intimidated. I was like, oh my God, there's just so much I can do. And then I get scared and I leave. And then Unity was easier, even though I think now it changed a little bit. But this basically reduces the barrier of entry to creation by like 1,000, if not millions, right? Why do you think it was so important to you?
I think it's because, like I mentioned, I wanted to do this since I was a young kid, since I was 12. So I had to go through all that pain of, learning to code, learning to model, learning to all these complex tools. Like it took me years and a lot of education and moving countries, leaving my friends and family to actually become a game developer. And I always had this desire, and one day I'll go back to Portugal, and start, a good games industry in Portugal where people don't actually have to leave my country. So it was my way of trying to do my little part, in order to not let other people, go through the same things that I did.
Yeah.
It just turns out that technology has evolved so much that I can do this at a much bigger level where, now I can make it so that even younger people than I was can learn how to become a game developer and even become an entrepreneur and even earn money from their creations in 3D without having to leave their country, their family, their friends, anywhere in the world. I don't need to go back to Portugal, Just like it's actually possible to do this and enable a lot of people to express their creativity.
Yeah.
And that was always important to me because, playing games is a lot of fun, but creating games is so complex. I'm like, why does it need to be this way? Even for my own selfish reasons. Like, if I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, I might as well have a lot of fun doing it. So I was always searching for this way of how can I make this more joyful?
Yeah.
And then generative AI appeared. I'm like, I can see how.
Boom. Do you think your idea came? Okay, so this is an interesting question. A lot of people say don't do solution in search of a problem. As in, like, a lot of people see AI and then come up with a problem. They see AI and then they're like, oh, what can this technology unlock? And a lot of people say you should never approach framework like starting a company that way. It should always be problem and then solution. But actually, I don't know. Part of me actually disagrees with that in the sense that I think it's a bit of both. So do you think your idea of Nilo, of like enabling anyone to create 3D worlds, did it come before seeing generative AI and that AI was basically the unlock and great timing? Or was it that you saw AI and you were like, what can it unlock now from all the experience you've had building games before?
Yeah, no, the problem existed, right?
It's always been a huge problem.
Yeah.
Always been a huge problem.
But it's like, I had that problem,
right?
Like I was mentioning, I always wanted to make it more joyful and easier. It's a little bit like, Richard Feynman's, 12 problems. Always have in your mind 12 problems that you're trying to map if now there's a solution every time something new appears. And, as soon as my problem was game development is too complex. Like, I can't even create 3D models that are good without spending a lot of time doing it. I can code, but even code is complex enough. All these tools are complex. I can't create music. Like, how do I make a game? And I was always searching for something that would help this problem. And that was only when, generative AI appeared, the browser became mature, the new market appeared with Gen Alpha being 3D developers themselves, playing Minecraft and all of this. It was only when all of this appeared that all at once that I started to realize, okay, there's something that can be done now.
That makes sense. Is there any... Okay, I have actually a lot of questions when it comes to this. Is there something surprising about how your users are using Nilo? Like, are you seeing patterns, something that is, oh, you didn't expect it from teenagers building virtual world to be doing it? Is there something that you're seeing?
There's a lot of things that are surprising because when you give this kind of creativity to users, I'm constantly surprised that the tool even can do what they're doing with it. But I'll mention something. The thing that was most surprising to me was actually the parents of the kids. Because, when you release a UGC tool, you're going to see so many things. So I can tell you many things that are surprising. But this is one that I never expected, which was when I interviewed like 8 and 10 and 12-year-olds, normally what happens is their parents are there with the kids.
Sure.
It
makes sense.
Right?
They want to who knows who are they talking to, but
Exactly.
Okay.
So, you have this live video with the stranger. They want to be there.
Of course, yeah.
And so what happens is I'm doing this user testing with them, and then you remember the user testing, like?
Yes, we did one. Yeah, we did one together.
It's like that, but with a 10-year-old. And now the parent is there. And so what I didn't expect is that what the parent sees when Nilo is playing is they don't see a game. They see code generation. They see generative AI. They see, creativity. And so what happens is that the child is just having fun. Feels like a game. The parent sees it as someone almost educational. It's something that is good that for career purposes, for learning, So invariably, every single one of them is like, can my kid continue to play afterwards? Sure. Can they have this? And so that's when it hit me that actually this is, unlike Roblox that nobody wants their kid to play. It's like, no, you only play like 2 hours on a Sunday. Like, everyone wants people to play Nilo regardless of what they're building. And that was very, very surprising.
That's super interesting. I think the best thing you can do is tell a parent that your kid is spending time both having fun and learning something. Because, as a parent, I mean, I don't have kids, but I can imagine, like, I'm stressed. It's like, okay, I need to make sure, what they do right now is they give them iPads with like a bunch of apps to play, and then they leave them with their iPads.
Yeah.
I find that I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but like, you give them a tool that, oh, my kid is both having fun and learning something. In this case, code generation, right? So, yeah, it's like the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if you've influenced parents who thought in the past, and they will never tell you this, but who thought games were just like for fun. And then thanks to you, now they think, oh, actually, games can be for something more productive. I wonder, did anybody ever tell you that? Or
No one has told me that yet.
Yes,
So
but-
TBD.
TBD? That would be something great to hear, I think.
When Nilo gets released and then we see parents' reactions at scale, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious. So you've worked across, I think, console gaming, cloud gaming, mobile gaming, web now based worlds. Is there any sort of like pattern you see in all of this between building across all of these different platforms? Because people usually, I don't know, like they play on one, maybe two, but like usually they play on one. And I'm wondering, have you've touched all of them? What are there anything interesting patterns that you can share?
I mean, not sure if beyond the obvious ones, because the pattern that I've seen is just the technology just continues its march of just becoming so much better. Devices become cheaper. It's just so much more accessible
Yeah.
to more audiences. Whereas before it was like only if you're a hardcore gamer that has a PC, it needs to be an extremely good PC, and then it just democratizes down and down. And this also enables what I mentioned before, which is, the biggest trend and change that I've seen was that now more and more people become gamers, and this is what enables the games industry to be so massive, is that now parents and grandmothers are playing Wii's, and everyone plays on their phones. And this is because the technology has increased so much in terms of performance and memory and that and accessibility, that that it's a pattern across all platforms that this now happens. And it's what enabling web development as well. Like browsers, they didn't have WebAssembly, WebGPU, browsers were not mature enough to be able to do 3D games, but now they are. And now I can build Nilo because they actually sustain 3D games, because technology has increased to such a level that that's possible. And I think this is just going to continue with generative AI. And even more technology advancements. So that's one of the patterns I've seen.
And do you think, following up on this, do you think the future of game development, do you think that we'll be able to create Fortnite or Uncharted, Last of Us, GTA on the web in like 10 years? Not that it will happen because it takes a whole studio to do it, but do you think it will become a possibility?
The web moves extremely slowly, unfortunately.
Okay.
Or because there's many standard bodies that needs to agree, like Apple with Safari, and then Mozilla and Google with Chrome. They all need to go and agree by committee that this should be done. And usually they don't agree. So it takes quite a long time to evolve. So to give you a sense, we now have WebGPU, and WebGPU is, I think, 78% of the market in penetration. So it actually works across most.
What's WebGPU? Is it like a way for people to create on the web?
Oh, WebGPU is a graphics API.
I see. Okay.
It's basically like OpenGL or DirectX. It's a way to talk to the graphics card. So when games want to draw triangles and to draw pixels, they go like, hey, computer, use this API to make this draw command.
I see.
And usually Windows has DirectX, or OpenGL. The web has WebGL and WebGPU, which is the newer standard. It makes performance much better, a lot of other things, a little bit more technical. But the point I was going to make is that WebGPU is basically now a graphics standard that is like already 10 years behind. And it just now appeared with like almost 80% of market share. So not many people can even use it. It's not that it's available at 100% of the browsers, but it's already 10 years behind what is possible in state of the art. So that's to say, web moves slowly because it needs like all of the standards bodies to agree with each other. And so when we talk about, hey, can we have GTA 6? Probably is going to take much longer than you think.
People are not going to be happy to hear that.
It's simultaneously much better than people think because people haven't seen, what you can build with Nilo nowadays, with web GPU, WebAssembly, web transport. The APIs are there.
Yeah.
But because you don't have the Unreal Engine of the web, because no one has built the tools to actually take advantage of these APIs, then creators cannot use that Unreal Engine of the web to create games. And so it's like you need one to do the other.
Yeah.
We're now building Nilo, which take advantage of that performance. And once you can see what's possible now, and it's so easy to use, now you're actually going to see games that were not possible before because people didn't have the tools to create it.
Yeah.
And then people are going to go like, oh, it's possible now. And they're going to start sparking their imagination.
Yeah.
And that's then going to drive the need for the standard bodies to agree and do even more things because now more content needs to work there.
That makes sense.
It's a flywheel.
Are you seeing any, because you just talked about imagination, new types of games, have you seen so far through Nilo or like, I don't know, in the industry, are you seeing like a trend in the sense that new types of games, because with LLMs, it's such like new things must be possible.
Yeah.
Are you seeing like new types of games that didn't exist before? Whether it's like 3D, 2D doesn't really matter, that are now becoming possible and actually like, cool idea.
Yeah, there's an example. I forget the name now, but there's, I think, a game that is on iPhone. I'm not sure that it's been fully released, but there's a demo where the demo is basically you talk to a girl that is in space. And it's basically using the current limitations of artificial intelligence, which is, for example, latency, but they're using it for gameplay. And so imagine that there's a girl that crashed, their spaceship in space. Now she needs help, and now she's communicating with you.
Yeah.
The protagonist, and she's like, "Help! I crashed. You need to help me here from Earth." And what happens? Because there's space, because there's that there's a delay between you sending a communication and the person replying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that person, that character is fully AI generated, limp sync with AI. All the thoughts are generated in AI in real time. So in the game itself, you could talk about Fortnite or about Minecraft or anything, and it would give you a coherent answer back. So you're basically talking with, like a character AI.
Oh my God.
Except that actually you feel really good about this gameplay because the limitation of having to wait for the reply is actually integrated in the game itself.
That's like very smart.
Genius.
Whoever, I don't know who it came up with this design, with this idea, whatever we want to call it, but that's genius.
Unfortunately, I forgot the name, but respect.
I'm sure, look, honestly, like I know the gaming industry is not, there's some problems right now. There's been a few layoffs, etc. I think there's some shift happening between like costs are going lower because of AI, so therefore a lot of people are losing their jobs. But at the same time, people are moving faster. It's unlocking whole new types of like gameplay experiences. I'm curious to see how it's going to evolve. And there is, this new technology. I'm sure you've heard about world models. Just to like give a bit like of context, but world models are essentially models that you can type things with text, image, video, and it generates a fully 3D world for you. Now, it simulates physics really well, but you can use it for like robotics, you can use it for like games, etc. But essentially, a lot of the work that people spend doing, especially for example in virtual reality, like, you spend so much time designing a 3D world, what if you can do it just via text? It's a bit crazy, but it's actually becoming possible. And I'm very much of a fan of that. Would love to hear, like, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that's actually good for games, bad for the game industry, or any thoughts?
I think it's a very exciting technology.
Okay.
I think it's really cool that it works at all, and it's going to become even more real time.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, TBD on its applications.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like to say it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and it's like, we don't know.
We don't know.
I speak with a lot of people that are designing world models, founders, and people at the forefront.
Yeah.
And even they say, we don't know. Like, yes, maybe it's used for training, for, other LLMs and other world models.
Yeah.
It's used for robotics and simulation. Sure. Now, is it going to be a more consumer application? Is it going to help game developers build worlds?
Yeah.
Is it going to compete with games? Is it going to be a new category? TBD. Now is the time to build and figure it out.
I mean, also, it's a great time to have this because if you think about it, with Cloud Code and all of these tools like Lovable, etc., like you've got all of these incredibly creative people, designers, creative people that couldn't code before and they needed to ask an engineer to do something, but now suddenly they can express their creativity, which also you're using, right? Because all of these teenagers you're having on Nilo are also super creative people and you're giving them the power to create. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in a sense that I'm not a big fan of like saying this is where it's going to head. I think it's both like scary for the people working in the industry, but also really exciting that you don't know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the internet. I think it was hard. And now you look back and you're like, of course, social media makes sense. But I'm sure nobody in 2001 or 2002 could have predicted social media. Like there's no way, right? It's just someone maybe thought about it once and then in 2010 would say, oh, of course, you saw Facebook. I saw it early. I think there's some similar things here where stuff is going to happen. In hindsight, it's going to be obvious, of course. But actually, no, it's not, right? And I think it's an exciting time.
I was speaking about world models specifically. As we're talking about, vibe coding that people are going to create. I have designers right now in Nilo where I just said, hey, here's cursor. Here's how you use cursor. And now they're creating their own prototypes. They don't need the feedback loop with engineers. And so there's so much power there.
Yeah.
Nilo was created a few months before vibe coding, the term, was even a thing. So it was exactly the right timing.
Yeah.
But like what we're able to see, what people are able to create with this kind of technology is just being able to prompt things into existence from image and code.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. It's great what people can do with this technology. Of course, there's going to be a lot of problems too that we need to address.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Which is perfectly aligning with my next question. When you think about the next generation of creators, what excites you the most about what they'll be able to build?
What I'm already seeing is that they're able to build way beyond the capabilities that were accessible to them before. What I'm really excited about is that they're actually able to build together.
Okay.
Which is something that
makes sense with your product being collaborative.
Exactly.
I was expecting an answer of like, oh, I want them to build the shows or the movies they've always dreamed. If you ask me this question, I would say Pokemon. I love Pokemon. But yes, makes sense with what you're building. Please, sorry. Yeah, please.
No, because that wasn't the thing before, right? So now it gives rise to a lot more creativity that wasn't possible before. But I'll answer your question in the way that you expect.
Yeah.
Something that I expect them to build that wasn't possible before is what I like to call building at the speed of culture.
Okay.
Something happened in ephemeral games, ephemeral 3D, social 3D.
Yeah.
Something happens in the world, like, a Coldplay moment in the concert where people get caught and you're like, what is this? And now you want to make fun of it.
Yeah.
And now you create like texts and Twitter threads and Instagram and video posts, but you don't see 3D content created about it.
True.
Well, now 3D content is going to because now it's so easy to create that I can just with my phone take a picture, upload you into Nilo, and
I saw you doing that once. Take a picture of the Supercell head of AI. You put him on as an avatar in like 3D in like 10 seconds.
And then
and they went nuts and then they invested in your company.
Yes.
Yes, really cool. That's probably why they invested in your company.
Probably.
That was that moment.
But you see, this is something that is funny.
Yeah.
Usually creating in 3D is so hard.
Yeah.
That it takes like so many people, teams of professionals to create something that you're like, now becomes precious.
Yeah.
Now you're like, this is precious.
Yeah.
But if it becomes so easy to create and anyone can do it, this ephemeral 3D social where just, let's do this. I'm going to share a link with you. Ha ha ha. We had fun. Forget.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, create another one. This was not possible before. I think this gives rise to a new medium,
right?
Where you're not really just playing, but you are. You're not really just creating, but you are. And you're not really just watching, but you are. And I want to see more of this, where you're actually building at the speed of culture. I don't think we've seen that yet.
You're living inside the world that you're building right now. You start living in them and spending time in them. I mean, what people have been doing on Roblox, but like, at scale.
At scale.
At scale. For anyone, for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I was a teenager, you would have given me Nilo. Like, I don't know how, like, if you were enabling me to create 3D virtual worlds when I was like a teenager, because I used to dream about this. Like, I remember my dream when I was a kid was, and I always like talk about this, was I dreamed of just walking around and having my Pokemon next to me. I used to look at the grass. In Tunisia, we have a lot of like grass and parks, etc. And so I look at the grass and what if there was Darkrai? What if there was like Arceus? I don't want to say Pikachu because that's shit. Arceus, so Darkrai there, and they come out. And I always say the person who's going to disrupt VR, and I don't know if it's true, but the person who's going to disrupt VR is going to be the studio that can replicate Pokemon in real life. Like you're going around, you have Pokemon, you go into an arena, and like I don't know if it will ever happen, but I think it's the dream of a lot of kids. And basically, like I don't know, I just see that happening in the next few years. Like,
So why did Pokemon was not that for you? What does Pokemon miss for that to be true for you?
in what
Pokemon
sense?
Go.
Yeah. Okay, so Pokemon Go I think is fun, but like taking out my phone and like seeing it there, it just doesn't have that level of presence, immersion that I wish it had. I tried it; it was fun to do it once or twice, but I didn't feel like I was living Pokemon.
Okay.
Right? That's probably the part that was missing.
So is the immersion?
Is the
So you
immersion.
need some AR VR?
Something. I need to see. I need to feel like it's there. Yeah, that's me personally. I'm big on VR. There's even a headset here. There's a reason for that. But yeah, that's like basically.
That's fair.
Maybe my last question to you is: a lot of people want to get into gaming industry, despite the fact that it's going through hardships and stuff. I know a lot of people who are young, even later in their career, want to get into the gaming industry, and just don't know how. I guess for someone who's been there for like 15 years almost, like, what would you tell your younger self if you were like, with all the tools now, what advice would you give? What would you tell your younger self if you were starting all over again?
Starting all over again, but now?
But now, exactly,
Oh.
with the current tools.
If I had the current tools, like I was scrambling for having any book. And now you have LLMs that you can just ask, hey, how do I play
Yeah.
a video game?
Yeah.
No, we live in an amazing time, an amazing world with great technology that gets distributed to everyone. We could live in a world where there's, OpenAI and Anthropic and these AI labs and Google create AI and keep it to themselves.
Sure.
That's not the world we live in. We have PhDs in our pocket. Like all of this technology gets democratized to everyone.
Yeah.
And I just find it amazing that we live in this current world where actually, if you wanted to be a game developer, you could just go to your favorite LLM and go like, how do I become a game developer? You're actually going to get a coherent answer. And then you just probe deeper.
Yeah.
But I like art more. Okay, how do you become an artist? Maybe now the advice would be actually, learn how to use Gemini and Nano Banana to actually iterate with AI.
Yeah.
Like when Photoshop was appearing and digital artistry was appearing, you don't just draw by hand, learn how to use the tools of today. Same thing for coding. Maybe learn Cursor and Cloud Code and anti-gravity and start diving deeper and understanding how to become AI enabled as you develop code. And from that angle, then go deeper, right?
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's the reverse. When I started, like you just go deep and then you start to go broad, whereas AI actually now rewards people that have breadth and then from there starts to go deeper. So AI can show you the lay of the land. Then you go, I want to go more here. And now you start to go deeper and you start. People are afraid that people will not go as deep as before because AI will just do it for them and everything becomes surface level. But actually, that's just up to each one of us. You could go as deep as you wanted. So if you really wanted to get deep into coding and understand things like I had to understand at the assembly level, and make optimizations to x86 assembly and VMX 128, like you still could. You just, ask AI, go get the books, recommendations, go actually do the work. There's no reason why not.
Yeah.
And so I think we live in an amazing time where that's possible at all.
So would you tell you should go build as many games and learn the AI tools? Maybe building games with existing AI tools, assuming, there's the saying that models are as, like, what you're seeing is the worst it will ever be.
Yeah.
And so basically building experiences, actual games, using the tools and assuming in your head that it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the deferred life plan,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna work at a consultancy so that I can earn money, so that I can actually be a founder to work on the thing that I actually want to work.
Yeah.
No, just go do the thing.
You can just do thing. This is the famous saying that I like.
Exactly. Like, I want to build games. I want to be a game developer. Go
Yeah.
build games. Like, there is no shortcuts. Just do the thing.
That's awesome. Nuno, thank you so much for your time. As I mentioned at the beginning, I remember when I met you last year, I was very, I was inspired by your journey. Just because of not only because of the games, but because you picked something that you love and just went after it. And I tend to have a big admiration for the people that founders even more, but even just following your passion, just doing something you love and pursuing it without ever stopping is like something I admire. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.